Happy Empathy Day.
I'm Joanna Nadin, and I'm the author of No Man's Land.
And I'm SF Said. I'm the author of the Varjak Poor Books and Phoenix, and most recently, Tiger.
Today, we're going to be taking part in Empathy Exchange, which is an activity designed to help you get to know someone better.
We're going to be using some conversation prompts to help us, and we're going to have a friendly, open conversation. So, why don't we get started? Who wants to go first?
I'm going to go first because I'm going to ask you a question first from my exciting. It looks like a fancy bowl because it says Fortnum and Mason. It was 10p in a charity shop. So, do you always tell people how you're really feeling?
I have to admit, I do not always tell people how I'm really feeling. It depends on the people and it depends on the feelings. I think there are people who I'm really always very honest with, and I do tell them how I'm feeling, but that's because they're people who I guess I feel very safe with them, very comfortable with them, and I feel I could tell them anything and they would be okay with it. But I don't feel that everybody would necessarily be okay with everything I'm feeling all the time. And, you know, sometimes I feel things that I'm a bit embarrassed about that I wouldn't want other people to know, or, you know, sometimes I might be feeling angry about something and I know it's not really right. So I try and deal with that myself. You know, there are all kinds of different situations in which, you know, you don't always tell everyone how you're feeling, but I think if you have a feeling, you have that feeling, right? You can't pretend that you don't ultimately to yourself. And I feel it is always good to kind of let it out somewhere. So I think if there are people that I feel safe with and comfortable with, I might come back and say, oh, I just had this thing happen today. I'm really angry about it. I couldn't say anything at the time, but this is how I felt. And then if they can listen to it and go, oh, I understand why you were angry about that. Yeah, that would make me angry too. Showing empathy, that would really help me to deal with how I was feeling. So yeah, it all depends. But I think it's always good in the end to be able to have at least one person.
That's what I was going to say. As long as you've got one person that you can be honest with whenever you need, that's what matters.
Yeah, and we all feel things, you know, that not everybody necessarily is going to want to hear, but that's okay because we all do, every single one of us. All right, Joe, I have from my mug here another question. If I told you that your biggest fear was behind that door, what do you think would be behind that door?
Oh, that is a really good question. I'm not afraid of things, the usual things. I'm not afraid of spiders, creepy crawlies, rats, anything like that. And I've got some things I dislike, like going for long walks if there's no tea and cake at the end. And I'm not a fan of big dogs. They slightly scare me, but not in a really terrifying way. I think actually my biggest fear is being back in secondary school and being bullied. I was bullied at secondary school and having to go back into that atmosphere without my friends around me. So being alone in that sort of scary atmosphere. I feel it even now sometimes when I go on school visits. I'm taken back to that time. And obviously I don't feel the same way now. I'm a stronger person, but yeah, I think being say 12, 13 again and having to meet my bullies again would be my biggest fear.
I think being alone, as you say, you know, that's hard, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. I think that's it. It's not the bullying. So it was the feeling of being alone because I didn't tell anyone about it and no one else knew because they were very sneaky how they did it. So it was about being alone maybe more than, yeah.
But it sounds like you have some good friends now who you can have some tea and cake with, and it's all right, you know.
It is. And also the joy of being an author is that you can put mean people in books.
Your revenge. Terrific. Thank you.
Right. It's your turn. What is your number one goal in life?
Well, I think my number one goal in life was kind of set when I read Watership Down as a child. I from that moment, my life changed because my number one goal was always to try and write books myself, and maybe books that could have the kind of impact on readers that Watership Down had had on me. I've always felt that was really the one thing I wanted to do, whatever else was going on in my life. And it not something I found easy. Actually, I find writing really, really hard. And it takes me years and years and years to write each book. But it does always feel worth it in the end, because whenever I meet or hear from a reader who says, you know, they've read one of my books and they've enjoyed it, or it's meant something to them, it's amazing. You know, it makes all the hard work feel more than worthwhile. You know, if you just hear from one person, you know, I heard just today somebody had read Tiger and told me they loved it. And yeah, wow. I mean, it took me 9 years to write that thing.
I know.
Yeah, I would do it again like that if just one person could feel a little bit like how I felt when I read Watership Down, because that kind of experience, the stories, as I say, that we love when we're young, they meant so much to me, that I just want to kind of pass that on to people reading my book. So that has always been my number one goal in life, and I'll keep going, even though I say it's hard. I feel like I've got to keep going. I've got to keep doing it every day, working away on the new thing, however long it takes. I think perseverance, whatever your number one goal might be, perseverance, keep going, don't give up. You know, there will be difficult times. You will sometimes be discouraged. I actually received 90 rejections before I got my first book published. But
pretty much snapped with me too.
You know, many authors, not everybody admits this publicly, but we've all been rejected. You know, it happens. You've just got to persevere, keep going, keep trying to get better any way you can. You will get there in the end. You know, I believe you guys, you can do anything you put your minds to. Do I have one final question for you?
I think you do.
Jo, what qualities do you value most in your friends?
I would say making good cake, but that's not the right answer.
Good
although
tea.
I do appreciate it. Making a good cup of tea, definitely. Listening. I think being able to listen is such an underrated quality, kind of like kindness as well. Isn't underrated. We always think of what are the brilliant, sparkly, standout things, but the quieter things, kindness and just having the space and a really good listening ear, and not interrupting you when you're talking and saying, oh yes, that happened to me, and then telling you their thing, but just being able to listen, not necessarily being able to solve anything. I think that's a mistake. You don't, when I'm telling something bad's happened, I don't want them to solve it. I just need them to say, that's really rubbish, and maybe give me a hug. That's all I need, basically. So yeah, just being able to listen.
And that's one of the really important things about this task, I think, which listening with 100% of our concentration.
And checking in. It's been lovely the way you've been doing that, checking that you've understood what I've said as well.
Certainly doing my best. Now it's your turn. Why don't you have a go at Empathy Exchange yourself?
Your teacher will have a copy of all the questions in their school toolkit, and you'll find it on the Empathy Lab website as well.
So have a go and have a brilliant empathy day.
Bye.